some more questions, perhaps. Yes.
I just heard another, we've been talking about the American dream a lot in this talk, and I heard another talk that if you want to live the American dream, you should move to Denmark. Yeah, because people in Denmark are simply happier than people in America. So money can give you only so much happiness, yes, beyond which it's a lot of other things that get you happiness. And we talk about inequality a lot in terms of economic inequality and income inequality, but I think we really need to address it in terms of overall well-being of individuals in a country and inequality in well-being in general, because I think inequality itself is a very broad term. We've heard about gender inequality in it. We've heard about education opportunity inequality. We've heard about, I come from a health economics background, so for me it is a lot of health-related inequality in access and utilization of health services. So I think ultimately it boils down to the overall well-being of a society and not just the economic or income inequality. So do you think we really need to start addressing it in those terms instead of just focusing on income inequality?
Well, I think that's right. I think also, what is growth today, GDP growth? That was a measure that helped us along the way to come here, but now with technology advancements, with having labor being replaced by technology, with highly productive factories where you hardly need any labor, I think we really need to address the issue the way you do it, to say, okay, what is it really, where is the inequality really? Is it that we all will drive a Porsche tomorrow and then we are all equal, or is it that we are all happy where we want to live, and that might still be a huge income difference, but I'm still happy with what I've got. And I think again, with the movement of free energy, having solar energy available at almost zero cost, with having education at almost zero cost, with having communication at zero cost, and having also a society that is changing, where I think 20-year-olds across the world using Facebook are probably coming closer to each other on that level than people maybe within a country in certain income levels. So we are all drifting more to more global collaborative culture, I believe, where also the private assets are not as important anymore, or ownership is not as important anymore than access and sharing, if it's information or intellectual property right. And I strongly believe there's a strong push in that direction.
So do you think there's actually a shift in values? From the baby boomers to the millennials, that the millennials are a little bit more about sharing, about the sustainability of maybe owning less individually, but bringing more good to the community?
I think it becomes less important for myself. I can say, okay, I'm happy to have a car readily available here wherever I need it in Frankfurt by just using an app. It's more convenient for me than owning actually a car. So, and that really reduces GDP, because at the end I don't need as many cars as I have today. I can just share fewer cars, which reduces GDP. But at the end, everybody who's sharing that car is more happy because he has access to transportation whenever he needs it. I think that might be also a solution for poorer countries to reduce the dependency that came across with globalization. So today, we become richer and richer on the back of the emerging markets. Clearly, they have been also growing in wealth, but maybe this dependency on the energy level, or also on manufacturing goods, addressing 3D printing, for example, the trend to prosumers. So people are not just consumers anymore; they also are able to produce something. these trends will help to reduce this inequality and make people more happy.
Srita, do you agree?
I personally think that, if I'm allowed to say, I liked what you said, general well-being. That's something very important, actually. You know, the challenge is that general well-being is not our focus. It should be more our focus to think on our general well-being. And I personally think is that when we try to achieve our small dreams, before we try achieving our big dreams, then only we can, see that this general well-being is achieved. However, I personally think that the phase of globalization is something which you cannot control. It will go on its own mode. And competition will definitely increase, and market is competitive. And when a market becomes stagnant, then it wants to become more competitive. So achieving that, it should be the focus, but achieving that status will be always very challenging.
Now, my first thought when you asked your question was that basically, if you have a little bit like in Denmark, perhaps, a social welfare system, which provides, I don't want to say panem and circenses like Brot und Spiele, but what you kind of need in order to feel, okay, I don't have to look at the pyramid of Maslow and think, okay, the basic needs are not fulfilled, so I have to struggle out here. But my basic needs are fulfilled, and I can actually talk about other things, and I can develop ideas, I can be creative and grow, not only fight my everyday bread and butter. So there the government comes into the play. There government spending comes into play. Social transfers, progressive taxation, etc., etc.
So, regarding government intervention or social services, basically, I would like to ask you, because I'm from India as well, and you said it's you and I that are responsible for, sort of reducing this inequality in society. And
not only, but also.
So we spoke about education services, for instance, in India, and the thing there is that, if I'm not wrong, this is how I understood what you said, that it's not about, it's about whether people have access to a public school. So you don't have to send your child to a private school, but you can send them to a public school as well. So it's more about whether people utilize services or not. But would you agree that public schools in India are not as good as private schools? So we're actually asking people to settle down with a less better option instead of asking governments to improve the quality of public schools.
Both. Because, definitely the important thing is that we must, why a parent in India, for example, or in any other Southeast Asian countries, are always opting to send a child to the private school because they believe the quality in public schools are not to that extent good. So everybody is dreaming definitely to give a better education to the child. Investment has to be done more on education from the government part, and there is one emerging market which has been successfully doing this in the last years, and it's Brazil. And it has been a joint approach and initiative from government, from entrepreneurs, and many social initiatives. Brazil has been, if you consider all the emerging markets, and if you compare, they have really invested on mobilizing education, on making education more accessible to also to that part of the society who were really who are poor, who were not able to afford it, compared to other emerging markets where it has not been really priority one on the agenda so far. So, did I answer your question?
So it's a question of access versus utilization. You can provide things to people. It's whether they really use them or not. So that's really what it boils down. So what we should really target is we provide the opportunity, but whether people make use of that opportunity or not is the question. That's what we should really try to understand.
Yeah, and the challenge in these countries, what I see is that there are many I'm in many villages also. And in many villages, people don't know that there is a law that the child has to visit the school till the 8th standard. People are not aware of this law. So you have to make this awareness, but you have to also create rules and regulations so that the society has to adhere to it. That's very important.
Well, maybe Modi is working on that as well.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
I mean, yeah.
But I think there's also a clear question there between access and then also quality. But I think, you have to start with the first step, and access to education or just having the infrastructure there in place needs investment, and that is already the first step. But then the quality, as we were saying, is an online course at Harvard, the same quality as really going there, being on the campus, taking part in the sessions, and spending your $150,000 on your education in order, and then utilize the alumni, which then goes into another direction anyway, in order to have your job.